Hey guys, it's Josh. Today I'm going to walk you through how to do some threat hunting with the Sunburst IOCs within ExtraHop. So we got a couple of really good blogs. If you go to the ExtraHop blog, let's talk about this. And this is obviously a fast moving thing. This is a major compromise. So we're constantly adding things. So please stay hooked up to the blog. Basically in the blog, we walk through the exploit, the detections that we're building or have had that may have detected this within your environment. There's different ways that it goes out, but this video is really going to focus on how do you know if you've been exposed. We are in a post-compromised world, and really what this is focusing on is the fact that, hey, have I been exposed? Where did that connection happen? I want to know how bad this is and if I'm actually communicating with these indicators of compromise. So let's start with it. On the blog, there's going to be a number of domains that have been indicated in the IOC, indicator compromise, that indicate that there's been communication for command to control DNS queries out to these DNS names. That's a first line to basically say that you're potentially at risk here. I'd put that into a high risk category. If you've had DNS resolutions to these queries in the last 9 months, it's going to show that you have potentially have been exposed to the Sunburst compromise. Okay. So that's the first question: is how do I understand with the ExtraHop how to do that? So let's walk through kind of there's three ways. Record search, if you have the records, we can search the EDA, and I'm going to walk you through how to do that. And you can use a script that we've released. So let's walk through the first one. How do I do the records? You go right up to the record, and you actually take the data right from here, and you just search for this part of it, and search for each one of these. So you can just go one by one and just search and say, does it exist in my environment? What's that? What is this particular URI out there? And if you search the records, hit paste on here, search the records, it's going to search out there. There's no hit for this. You want to go back for as long as period as you can. A lot of customers' records are going to be in the days or weeks time period. This is where the cloud record store is really powerful because we're able to take those records and move them to 90 days. So that look back's really, really useful. So you may or may not have this within your records, and that's totally fine. But look for it. Try to go back for as long as your records exist. It'll show how long your records exist if you pull back like the last 7 days. The bar chart, this one will show that I have just a few days. Your environment may have weeks or months. Your environment may have hours or days, just depending on how you're deployed and how much record data you have. So that's your first option. You can get to it. If you have hits, you're going to see the client and the server and all this amazing investigation detail. And if you want longer look back, we have the cloud record store to be able to go up to 90 days at this point. Okay, that's option one. Option two is going to be, we are going to leverage the ExtraHop packet sensor or EDA to be able to discover and look back within its metadata about what host queries were made over the last few months. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to assets, applications. We're going to go into all activity. You have to do this for each individual Discover device you have. Let me move this back to like last 6 hours because this is a revolving data. I'm going to go to DNS because the DNS is where those host queries went out to those potentially malicious domains that have been uncovered in the Sunburst compromise. So let's look at host queries. This is all my host queries at this point. So now I'm going to then add the filter. I could add the filter I want in here, but before I do that, I'm actually going to go create chart. And now this is going to make a dashboard. In this dashboard, I'm going to take, and I've asked our blog team to put this on the blog, so it might be on there. I'll make sure that there's a link to it, maybe in the bottom of my YouTube. And if you don't see it, just email me and I can get it for you. But essentially, we're taking this list right here and putting it into a regex piped format. And so basically, I'll copy that and put it, let me go back to where I was. So right here, this allows me to look, and basically, I'm going to tell ExtraHop, only look for those URIs associated with this IOC. So it's only going to pull those up. And then you're going to set this time period for like the last 6 months, 9 months. And then it's going to search for all of these. And it's going to bring those up and show you, have you communicated with it? We're looking for a no here. If you get a hit, it might take a while because it's going back through lots and lots. If you get a hit there, that means that you've communicated with that DNS query. You can then click on it. I'll show you what that will look like. I don't have any of these actual DNS queries in the lab data. So let's just say that we have this running. I'm going to clear this out here. The actual regex. Okay, and so let's just say these were the hits. Like I got a hit after I put that data in there, and I'm going to add it to the dashboard. I'm going to create a dashboard, and I'm going to call it like Sunburst, DNS or whatever you want to call it. So now I have my dashboard, and I've got my Sunburst IPs on it. So now you exit layout mode, and one of these is your Sunburst IP. You can actually click and see the client that made those requests even 6 months ago. So now I've got the actual client associated with that. and the host and the actual query. So this is the query right up here. See how it goes dark when I hit host queries? That means it's refiltering to everything. As I hit the client, it's actually using this query here. I'm just pointing at the screen like you guys can see it. I'm actually using the host query here to actually show what client made that request in the day. And I've done this with multiple clients. It absolutely works. And that tells you what client made those requests. And the biggest question is, have I made the request? Did I actually expose it? Was I running those versions? If you get hits here, you were absolutely exposed. And I would assume that you have been compromised to some level or to some extent. And if you had the 90-day look back and the richness of all ExtraHop does, we could go through and search, network privilege escalations and Kerberos and really do a deep dive post-compromise. Okay, that's two. So the first one is the ability to go in and use records. If you've got the time period, use records. Second one is we're going to use the EDA. We're going to create a chart off of applications all activity DNS. We're going to use that regex of the handful of DNS queries to see which ones we get a hit on. Okay, and if you do, that's when you know. Here's the third one, and this is within the blog post. The third one is probably the most data, but can be maybe the hardest to do. It's not hard, but it's going to take the most steps, which is totally fine. So in the blog post, we have a couple options here. If you scroll to the bottom, and I encourage you to read this, there's a script. Download that script. It's going to take you here. There's another blog post that goes deeper into it that we released today that talks about, deeper into the threat intelligence that's really, really good. There's another the script in here that searches for IPs in the environment and does a sanitized output, which I think is really cool. So go grab both of these. And this is right here. And they're going to show you into a code example here. You're going to copy this code, right? I'm not some Python expert, I'm not some code expert. Don't be intimidated by this. It's totally fine. You're going to want to copy this, right? And copy each of these codes. And then you're going to take your text editor, and let me bring it up here. I download like Sublime Text or whatever you're using for Windows. Even if you're not familiar with this, it's just totally okay. Just download a free Python text editor. Usually you can use, they all are going to format text in different ways. Let me show you mine here. Just put it into a tab, paste it in there, save it as Sunburst IP, Threat Hunt IP, or EHDNS Pi. Right, so you want to save it as exact names that show in the blog post, because that's that command that we're going to run is going to pull and execute this Python script. So once you save it here, save it to somewhere like on the desktop or something, so that we can get to it. I'm going to show you that. Okay, so it's totally okay if you've never done Python before. Totally understand. Go grab Sublime Text or any other text editor. I think the Windows people, Text++ is one. Anything that'll just allow you to format Python correctly right from that code. Okay, so now you have it. You've saved it to the desktop. You're on your way. Great. So now what do we do? Let's say you don't have Python, which I don't know if I have Python, Josh. I don't know. Go and just Google download Python. It'll take you to python.org. You can download Python for Mac or Windows. Do it. I did that today because I was on an old version. It downloaded it, and then I can execute Python 3 within my environment. You can do the same thing for Windows. It's asking a buddy, and it does the same thing. So, and then what you're going to do is you're going to open a terminal screen. So all a terminal is just ability to get into your CLI of your Windows machine. And so that's going to allow you to access and run this script. But before we do that, before you bring up a terminal, we're going to need to go into the actual ExtraHop UI, go into the admin. When you go into the admin here, you're going to go and you're going to search for, on the search bar up here, API access. The API access is going to bring you to this page right here. And I don't care if you guys see my keys, go for it, hack away. This is my stupid little lab at home. If you get in, I'm proud of you. So anyway, the key is what you're going to want to grab here, and don't let other people see this in your environment. Grab the key and copy it. You're going to want that key. So if you need the ability to create API keys, you need to be able to use them with your user to be able to do this. This is going to be associated with your user. So you need to be able to do that work with your admin team for ExtraHop if you don't have access to it. Okay. So now you've got the admin key and you're off and running. So now let's go back to that terminal and pull the terminal up. So what do I do here? So the first thing we need to do is we need to go and understand an LS of where those scripts are. So if you go out to, and it's just some basic Linux or even in Windows, you change directory to the appropriate directory to where we put those scripts. I just am lazy and put them on my desktop. So if you're somewhere else, you can go LS and it's going to understand where you're at. You can go PWD and I can understand this is where I am. CD ... is going to take you back and forth, and I can go PWD here, and I can see that I'm on Josh Snow, and I want to go to desktop. And so wherever you're at, just make sure you get to where the file is. And then at this point, we're going to take the actual scripting commands here of the one you want to run. There's a couple of them in here, and we're going to take that and we're going to change where it says API key, and that's where we're going to put the API key in. So copy that and put it in there, and we're going to run the API key, right? Okay, so once you've copied that for each of these, replace where it says here with your API key. Got it? Okay, and then that's on each of these blog posts. So you'll be fine. It's right here, and it's on each of these blog posts. And where it says your EDA, I put the IP of mine in because I'm lazy. I don't have my DNS server set up. But if it's your actual, my company, ExtraHop, whatever the resolution is of the host is what you're going to want to put in there. Okay, so what's it look like? What's the output look like? Mine's going to be kind of underwhelming, but it's my lab, so I don't actually have SolarWinds running here. So let me show you. I ran the first one here. So you can see Python 3s, EHDNS Pi, there's my actual lab EDA, API key, go nuts. No Sunburst activity found. What's really cool is that we actually generate this link to records if we found any. So if you went, you could go back and copy this and actually run that query, and it's going to take you to any Sunburst records that we found. It's pretty cool. All right, so that's the first one that's looking for those DNS queries from a script perspective. And then the second one is actually going to go through and iterate all the IP devices and start to making an output associated with those. And so I ran this one, and it's gathering the devices, created an output of all my devices. I don't have any hits, so it's not going to go here, but it's going to then compare that to our threat hit list and then do an output of it if we have it. I don't have it here. In your case, if you have it, you're going to examine it and see it and run with it. Okay. So, in summary, the 3 ways. Record search, if you got the time period. That's going to be the shortest time period typically. Talk to me about extending your cloud record storage to 90 days for the next attack. I think that's going to be really important and vital. It's because it's the easiest way to get this context. The second way is do an all activity DNS. Use the regex that I'll paste or make sure is on the blog to be able to get you access into doing a long query of data that's on the packet sensor just to see if you expose. Click on those queries to then see what the clients who made those requests. And then you could move potentially laterally, see what was the client doing at that time period when that request was made, maybe 2 weeks before. You could do a deeper dive at that point. Third way is the scripts that are in the blog posts. Get Python 3, run the scripts, see what happens as an output, and examine those outputs. All right, let me know if you got questions. I hope this was helpful. Thanks, guys.